Good evening. I'll now call the City of Cannon Falls City Council meeting for Tuesday, November the 7th to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Abady,
Present.
Altoff.
Here.
Carpenter,
Here.
Dalton,
Here.
Mattson,
Here.
McCusker,
Yeah.
and Mayor Robinson.
Here. All please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting, first one in November. This time, Chair will take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Ken. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Moves us on to public input, which is citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Please before speaking, please give your name and address for the minutes, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, I kind of noticed a little disturbing pattern recently in the Public Works, and the latest happened on Halloween. I was up with the children on Main Street in the afternoon when they had the parade, and all the holes were dug out where the trees belong. And I just happened to be standing with Dave Pagel, and I was kind of wondering what was going on, because I was at a Public Works meeting the week before, and I was here at a council meeting, and it was never discussed that they were going to be filling in where the trees belong, and that decision was made like 30 years ago to have trees on the boulevard. Now they're all being filled in. And they got dug out just before all the kids showed up uptown, and there was supposed to be like 700 or 750 of them or something like that. But the real disturbing part was, I told you I was standing there with Dave Pagel, and his phone went off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I think he gets done working about 3, doesn't he? Yeah. And it was an email about the swans that Cedar had sent, ordering him to check out the swans. And I find it hard to believe that there's a difference between that and the allegation that Leroy McCusker told somebody to sweep rocks off the bridge, allegedly. Because I don't think there's anybody in this room yet, to this day, that has either asked Mr. McCusker or asked Mr. Dave Pagel what actually happened. Seems really odd to me.
Right. Did you see the email to Dave Pagel, or are you just repeating what you think was on his phone at 4 p.m. that day?
He picked his phone up and he looked at it like that, and I can read.
Okay, well, I didn't email Dave Pagel because I don't have Dave Pagel's email address.
You got an email with
I
your name
expressed
on it.
some concern
That
regarding
came
the
from me,
swan's
babe.
health.
It was
Period.
passed on to me that a swan might be sick.
So she can email you.
I didn't order anything. I
just-
expressed concern.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh, I was in
you've got
this
your,
room.
you've got your 3 minutes, and you've brought your point up,
I
babe.
was in this
So
room.
your point has been brought up. Your 3 minutes are up for this evening.
So you want to cut me off? You mean you're going to have to make me wait for a month so I can put this in the newspaper because you don't want to handle it here? Okay, suit yourself, but
Anybody else wishing to address the council under public input this evening? Good. If not, we'll move on to item 6 this evening, which was going to be a presentation by the Library Foundation, and she's asked that we cancel that this evening to a later date. That moves us on to item 7, which is a public hearing for Resolution 2303, certifying unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes. And Linnell?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the quarterly public hearing that we have to certify unpaid utility charges to the property taxes. this is an opportunity for any residents to come forward and speak regarding that. And if payment is not received, then we will certify it to the county for collection.
Okay.
And just FYI, I know the dollar amount hasn't really gone down much yet, but we are seeing some activity on the credit cards, just not a lot with the delinquent users yet. So we're hoping that over time, and maybe as word continues to get out, that we'll see an increase in that. But we are seeing an increase overall in the credit card use, so.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask that question on that part of it, because I know the numbers haven't gone down, and it's like, you know, on this, and there's a couple of them that are rather large there, so. This time, we will open up the public hearing to address the council on the unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes. Is there anybody wishing to address the council under the public hearing for Resolution 2303 for unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes? Is there anyone wishing to address the council for unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes? Is there anyone wishing to address the council for unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes? Seeing as there is no one, we will close the public hearing at this time, and Chair will take a motion to approve Resolution 2303, certifying unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Morris, second by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey, Robbie, could I just ask a couple questions on that?
Sure.
I noticed Linnell and I realize this is kind of like beating a dead horse, but the ones that are up over $1,000, are they commercial or are they residential? I noticed we get a couple high ones all the time, and I was just kind of curious, if it is residential, then that must be happening over a year's period or something to get that high of amount, ain't it?
I haven't looked at this list in particular, so I can't really answer your question. So I would really hate to say one way or the other without looking at it, because
Okay,
I might be wrong.
okay.
So I can look into it and let you know in the future, but
Yeah, I'd
regarding this
appreciate
list, I
that.
can't answer specifically.
And then it looked to me like, I didn't get time to look it up from last time, but it looked to me like we're up about 2,000, 3,000 actually, aren't we?
I did hear that it was up a little bit, yeah.
Right. Okay, that's it, Robbie, sorry.
Okay.
Well, can I ask, to follow up kind of on what Leroy is saying, how many of these are repeat customers? Because after every quarter, does it zero out?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Typically, there are a lot of repeat customers. I don't know specifically the details on this particular list, but in years back when I used to do it, there were generally a lot of repeat customers. Sometimes it's easier for them just to have it put on their taxes and it gets put on with their mortgage payment. And rather than making the monthly payment, it ends up costing them more, but for some reason they may think it's easier.
I don't remember seeing $1,100 ones in the past. They usually stayed around the hundreds.
Well, we've seen them.
We haven't? Okay.
No,
just
I mean,
don't
maybe not
remember
since
recently.
you've been here, but
Okay,
we've seen them.
so,
You know, depending on the timing, some of that might have something to do with watering the lawns.
sure, yeah.
Because the bills are typically higher in the summer, so maybe there's some carryover from that. I don't know. Without looking at it in detail, I don't know.
The one thing, Linnell, I was hoping to hear from you is if the higher ones are commercial, to me, I guess I don't like that. I understand one thing of letting the water bills go out there for residential when they gotta have water. There's health issues in families that happen, I totally understand. But I don't like the idea if they're commercial, that they get extended way out there. So that's what I'm looking for when you let me know.
I know that there are some instances where we have sent off shut-off notices, and those are for commercial, so I can't say for certain that none of these are commercial, but I know we have done that in the past in certain circumstances.
I mean, we have discussed in the past, different ways of addressing this issue to try to knock that number down. And, I mean, it can be addressed again. All right. If there are no other comments on that, then we will move on to the consent agenda. items on this area of the agenda may be adopted, or they may be removed and placed on the business area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. For the folks at home, I'll read the consent agenda. Item A is the just and correct claims for the accounting period ending October the 31st, 2017. Item B are the meeting minutes for the October 17th, 2017 City Council meeting. Item C are the meeting minutes for the October 17th, 2017 City Council work session. Item D, Resolution 2304, accepting a donation of $1,500 from Invenergy to the Police Department. Item E, Resolution 2305, accepting a donation of $1,500 from Invenergy to the Ambulance Department. Item F, approve memorandum of understanding for the IUOE 49ers. Item G, add full-time paramedic position. Item H, 2306, support for state bond funding for the Cannon Valley Trail. Item I, Sandstone Ridge Simtra redevelopment plan, set public hearing. Item J, Resolution 2307, to establish license fees for brewers' tap rooms. And item K, approve the new brewer tap room off-sale license and new brewer tap room on-sale license for Tillian Brewing Company, LLC. Are there any items anybody wishes to bring down?
I'd like to bring down F, G, and I.
Okay, F will become the item 9C.
I'm bringing H. I understand that.
G and I, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, G will become item 9D. And I will become item 9E.
And I'd like to bring down item H.
And item H will become item 9F. Any other items? If not, Chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items F, G, H, and I.
So move.
Second.
Motion by John. Who was the second? Mike. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to council business, which the first item is the PEG Access HD upgrade. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. As the council is aware, we signed new agreements with two cable companies earlier this year. We negotiated our agreement with Mediacom, and we also brought on another cable provider, Hiawatha Broadband, HBC. These franchise agreements include grants for us to update some of our equipment. And the majority of our equipment, especially here at City Hall and in our cable studio, is still original to when we originally outfitted this building. So one nice thing about HBC is they're going to be providing our local community TV station in high definition on their platform. So to do that, we need to make some upgrades to bring our system up to high definition. So I'm proposing that we kind of make these upgrades in stages, mostly because I'm doing a lot of the installation in-house, and it'll allow us to kind of phase it in and make sure that each component works with the previous component. So the first phase that I'm recommending is that we upgrade our channel itself so that it can display in high definition, as well as our production system here in the studio, which is where we record things in our studio back here, as well as broadcast city council meetings, planning commission meetings, and other events in this room. So there are some core components that would be required for that first phase that I put in the council memo. But the two biggest pieces of equipment are the server that runs the system and the production system where we do all the switching between cameras and graphics and things like that. So funding for this would come from the Cable Television Fund, which is funded by the cable companies and includes the grants that came in as part of these agreements. So happy to answer any questions.
Is there enough in that fund to cover these purchases?
Yes, there is. Yep.
Well,
And I should say that this is,
Yeah.
like I said, this is phase one. So once we get this in place, we'll be looking at some upgrades to the AV system in here, as well as some of the things we do at remote sites, basketball games, things like that, so.
One thing, Mike, I'd like to point out is that we've always, when I was on the console last time, people always complained that the sound was terrible. And it was a deal where you had to run your TV on maximum to hear the meetings. The other thing is, with that is, we never seemed to really get it resolved till about the last 6 months I was on the console. Then for some reason it got fixed, and it was really good. But now we've gone back to that same problem again, where the ball games are so loud, you got them as low as they can go, but you can't hear the council meetings. The problem is that I have with that is that sometimes when people get a hold of me about something that's gonna be done on the planning commission, I like to listen to that meeting so I know what's been discussed and what's going on. So I'm not so worried about high definition and all that stuff. I just want a good system that works. And that's my big thing, I think. And of course, I guess I get a little nervous now because Hiawatha Broadband was a family operation, a good recommendation. And of course, now they're going to be sold out, I guess. So we're back into that thing, what happens next. So I just wanted to comment that I appreciate the work you do with that and the challenges with it. But just so the thing works, doesn't have to be high definition. Thank you.
Yep, appreciate that.
Any other discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion by Mike,
Second.
second by Ken, to approve the HD upgrade project at a cost not to exceed $55,200. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
That moves us on to the NLC Service Line Warranty Program. Tom?
My voice is kind of going here. The company is going to speak here. He came to Public Works and we discussed this. It's an insurance policy that homeowners can have. It's optional to cover service line issues for their water service, their sewer service, and their interior plumbing. Cover things like backups, water freeze-ups, things like that would have been helpful to many people. And we've got Derek here. He can give you a little bit of a guideline of how the system operates, and you can decide from there whether it's something you'd like to pursue or not.
Tom, let me ask one question before he gets up. How many times would this have come into play, do you think? Over the course of a year, how many homeowners maybe wish they would have had this?
4 years ago, it would have came in about 50 times. Since then, multiple backups, that we don't know about. Some we do know about, some we don't know about. But there definitely would have been some people that spent 10 to 12,000 getting their lines thawed 4 years ago that would have been very interested.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, department heads. Tom, thanks for inviting me tonight. My name's Derek Frudeman. The firm I represent is Utility Service Partners, and we're the administrator for the National League of Cities Service Line Warranty Program. So as you just heard Tom mention, what we specialize in doing is we help residents fix or replace the exterior water or sewer line or interior piping system within their home. And we do this through partnerships with cities, which we have roughly close to 500 cities across North America that we currently work with, and close to 15 or 20 here in Minnesota. And so what we aim to do is work with cities that are interested in enrolling their city into the program, so that we can then launch our program so that your residents could voluntarily enroll in a service line repair plan if they deem it's appropriate for them. We administer the entire program for you, so that includes all the marketing, all the mailing cost, all the enrollments, all the renewals, the recruitment of local contractors. We handle all of that. So there's no direct cost to the city to in fact enroll into this program. And so really the three main reasons why cities are choosing to enroll in the program and choosing us to offer this out is really kind of boils down to three main concerns or that are being seen throughout the country. So the first is obviously aging infrastructure. We know water and sewer systems in general. It has been well documented through the AWWA, the American Society of Civil Engineers. So obviously water and sewer systems are getting older, they're needing repair. Now most of that concern is on the public side, and I understand that. But what seems to get neglected is the private side of the system, meaning your homeowners' water and sewer lines. Most times nobody's paying attention to those. So when there is an issue, it tends to be unexpected, tends to be expensive. And so the second reason why this program is important is the educational piece. So it allows the city to proactively educate their residents about their responsibilities and then gives them the option to voluntarily enroll. We don't market this program without a partnership with the city. So if you decide not to do this, then your residents would never know about this program through the National League of Cities. And then obviously the third reason is a cost issue. So Tom had mentioned, in previous meetings that, 4 years ago there was obviously a brutal winter with some line thawing issues. That would be included in this service. So whereas a homeowner would come out of pocket without a plan, with a plan they'd be covered up to $8,500 in a per occurrence instance should their water line freeze, break, burst. Same thing on a sewer line. So that's really essentially kind of how the program works. It's done through public awareness campaign letters. So 2 to 3 times per year, your residents will receive a letter in the mail letting them know about their responsibility, and then at that time they can voluntarily enroll if they want to. The city approves all the documentation, all the communication prior to launch of the program. So that letter that I just spoke about, the city's going to review our initial letter. You can make edits to it, changes. We're going to work collaboratively with you to do that. And we don't put anything out there until you're comfortable doing that. So we can do, a press release prior. We can do postcard launch prior. So there's multiple ways that we can educate residents prior to the launch of the program if we want to. And then once the program's approved, essentially it's 1 or 2 onboarding calls. You make the approval of the letter, and then we just launch you with our next campaign schedule. So that's essentially how it works. I know I've been talking now for the past 3 or 4 minutes. So I want to just take a pause and to see if there's any questions thus far about what it is we're trying to do.
I mean, I know you guys are doing all this, but what is the cost to the city at all? I mean, what will it end up costing us?
There's no cost to the city other than, that initial onboarding call. It's just a little bit of time up front to get the documentation put together, the approvals, and then after that's done, the program pretty much runs on itself. So there's no direct financial cost for the city to enroll.
Did you say use local contractors to do the work? Or?
Yeah, we'll reach out prior to the launch of the program and find contractors in the area that want to work with us. And so that includes, obviously recruitment, that includes background checks, drug screens, et cetera. So we're putting contractors through a vetting process, and then once they're approved, they come into the network. And then as jobs come online, we dispatch them to your residence home.
How many people are doing this style or type of warranty out there in the field right now? I know when it comes to heating, there's all kinds of warranty companies, plumbing. Are you just specializing in a certain thing, or is there other people doing this, or?
There are other companies that do this, and the nice thing is well, we're not trying to eliminate competition. We're trying to just educate residents on what what issues they could potentially have. So we're really the only company out there, other than another firm, American Water Resources, that partner with cities in this capacity to launch a program. Other providers just go out and directly market the service. Some of the issues with that in general is, here in Cannon Falls, your water and sewer lines go all the way to the main. And so why that's important for us to know that is if somebody just coming in and mailing in their service, they may say, we're only covering from the curb stop to the foundation or to the lot line to the foundation. And so your residents left exposed on that portion of line that's going all the way out to the main. So So the benefit to working with us is that we already know that, and so we're gonna offer a product out there that's gonna fully cover the homeowner, so should they have an issue that involves street cutting, for instance, they're gonna be covered on that type of repair. Otherwise, they might buy an inferior product because, you know, the company that's presenting that product to them might not know that the service line responsibility here in Cannon Falls goes all the way to the utility main.
A couple questions, Robbie, for you and for Ron is that the biggest concern I have about this is kind of like the thing with the light thing here at the last meeting. Legally, we're supposed to put stuff like this out on bids or something. I don't know why we're working with one individual on this. I don't know why we 10, 15 years ago quit taking care of everything from the meter to the mains and everything. We seem to get a policy where we got stronger and stronger to get away from that. The one thing I would say about this is that we're one of the few small towns that's done a lot of updating, and when the updating is done, especially with the PVC on the sewer lines, you basically get rid of the root problem. Any mains that have been put in the last 20 years should all be in good shape and stuff. So I don't see that we're a high-risk town for something like this. I don't like the council to get into the business of endorsing one particular company or something. And I don't think we should be doing that. And I also think that if something like this is going to be done, it should be put out on bids. And I really wonder why the city's even involved in this. There's the internet today, there's advertising today, and there's people out there warranting everything nowadays, from your dryers, your washers, to your water mains. So I don't know why the city is even looking into this or thinking about this.
So, did the city look into this, or did they came to us, right, and said that they'd like to offer
They
this
came to
service
us. We
to our
didn't look
residents?
into anything. No.
Yeah, because it's not mutually exclusive, the partnership we're having with your company. If this American Water Standards or whatever wanted to come in and offer the same thing, they could do that.
They
Or are you
could.
looking for exclusivity?
They could. Now, there, in our marketing agreement, we do have an exclusivity provision where, you know, since it's an affinity marketing relationship, so it's use of city logo, we'd be the only company to offer it with the use of city logo. Now, they wouldn't be able to do that per the agreement. Now, if that was something that was holding the city back, you know, we're happy to redline that out of our agreement to say, yeah, if you wanted to have a dual program with another competitor. I will say American Water Resources, they tend not to partner with smaller entities, so they tend to go from, you know, the 25,000 to 30,000 connections in larger cities, which you guys are under, so they may not even have interest working with you guys. So from, you know, your standpoint of the bid at RFP, you know, there's really two companies that work with cities, but one of them tends just to go for larger opportunities and ignores the smaller cities. So we have cities that have 200 connections to, you know, 150,000 connections. We have the full gamut. So
I just think it's a big legal issue here that is not that simple. When you say using city logo or something, I certainly am not going to allow that. I hope the council wouldn't allow that. This should strictly be a private, independent thing. And it isn't that I don't see it's good or it's got possibilities for people, but I don't, legally, to me, this should be discussed a lot more.
Yeah, I think it should be looked at more. I mean,
Of course, if the city itself isn't doing any contracting, isn't reaching out for a contractor, we certainly don't have to bid for that, because we're not bidding on it. I mean, we're not asking anybody to do anything for it.
Right.
So I don't see where we would have to go out and bid this, because it's not something that we started.
Nor that we pay for. It's
well,
not.
why do we have to
right.
sign a contract then?
Right, why do we have to
It's a
prove it?
licensing and marketing agreement. It's not a contract that requires a financial obligation. It's that they're asking for our permission to do some things, like use our logo and contact our residents. I'm sure you'd use our roles, probably.
We
to
don't
make
need,
those-
we don't need data.
don't even need anything.
We purchase third-party data, so we don't even need that. So really, the marketing agreement outlines, use of logo, it identifies the city. It talks about kind of the marketing schedule. We typically do 2 to 3 campaigns per year, so that's outlined in the document. So that if you've reviewed the marketing agreement, you see it's about 3 pages of terms and then a term sheet which outlines the unit cost to the homeowner. So just so it's upfront and transparent, the water repair plan, $7.75 a month. The sewer plan, $6.75 a month. And the in-home plumbing products, $9.99 a month. And that's all done à la carte. And homeowner can just choose which one they want. They don't have to enroll in anything. If they want to, use their, we're all consumers of something. So, and we all have Google. So if they want to go online and search for potentially a better product through somebody else, they can certainly do that. So they're not obligated to go through us. It's really that initial education piece, and then then they make the decision whether or not it's good for them or not.
Right. Every homeowner would have that opportunity. And this, I don't think anyone's saying that we would say, yes, go ahead today. That onboarding process that you're describing is that talking a lot more
Right.
about it,
Right.
I think.
I think, like I said, if you choose to do it tonight, let's say, we don't release any information until you guys approve all the documentation that your residents would receive. So even if you do approve it tonight, and we can't come to an agreement on what that letter says or what it looks like, we don't launch the program. So you have full control over what goes out. And every campaign that we do after the launch of the program, you guys approve that as well. So if for some reason that, down the road you decide you don't like it, you just don't approve the next campaign going out, and we don't send anything out. So it essentially kills the program. So really kind of all the cards are in your favor. It's just whether or not you have the appetite to offer, or not offer, but to let us introduce this program to your residents and then let them decide if it's good for them.
Well, I'll be honest, this is something, when I bought my last house, we moved in, and a week later, the pump on our well went out. So here we are, $7,000 out like that, where I would gladly pay $10 a month if I knew that I had that peace of mind that if something did happen, that I'm not all of a sudden scrambling to find thousands and thousands of dollars. Now, in fact, I'll make a motion that we move forward with this, non-binding, of course, right? It's just to get the ball rolling. Yeah. If this is something that we can offer our citizens, they don't have to take advantage of it. It's up to them whether or not they want to do it. But I would like to at least move forward with the process so we can possibly give them a choice as to whether or not they'd want to do it.
And there is just make one point, if you haven't reviewed the marketing agreement, there is a royalty option with the program. So the way that the marketing agreement reads now is when a homeowner enrolls, a portion of that comes back to the city as a royalty. We pay that out one time per year back to the city. If the city just said, hey, we don't want to take the royalty, we just reduce the price point to the homeowner. So we reduce that by 50 cents on the product. So it'd be $7.25, $6.25, and $9.49. So you guys have full disclosure on that. That's, right now the marketing agreement has the royalty, but if you wanted us to take that out, that's fine. If you wanted us to take out the exclusivity provision, we'll work with you on that, because I really don't think it makes sense to partner with 2 companies anyway, but.
Is this your guys' program, or, you guys got it as the National League of Cities?
We administer the program for the NLC and have been for over a decade.
Question. He just described an incident that occurred outside of city limits with a well. Is your insurance available to cover those?
It covers well lines, it doesn't cover the pump. And that's
It's not restricted to just the city limits, so it's not restricted to just city residents. Or
If
is
they
it?
fall under Cannon Falls, or if if you have, in the instance, if we go purchase, my concern is if we go purchase third-party data, are we gonna pick up those residents that fall outside of Cannon Falls? So what you would need to do is just give us the ZIP +4, so that we make sure that when we get those, we're including all those folks in that. Or if you say, hey, we're concerned about the folks that are outside of city limits, and you wanna provide data to us, we can certainly use that to make sure that they receive the offer as well. So that way you're not getting yourself into a bind where someone says, hey, I didn't know anything about this, why didn't I get it? So we can work together to make sure that everybody that needs to get it gets it.
I think it sounds like a heck of an overhead. When you talk about the royalty thing and working together, I think it makes more calls for public works. It makes more involvement. We have local insurance companies. I don't know if they provide something like this but I certainly know you can go on the internet and punch in anything nowadays and it'll all come up. I just don't see why we would partnership with this thing. I just don't think that we should legally do it, because we're endorsing. And then if there is some kind of royalty thing, how is that supposed to work? How is the city supposed to be independent? I realize we have contracts with cable companies and with that stuff, but that's strictly out of our realm. Outside of that, they broadcast our 12 or whatever. I just think we're actually getting involved in something that we shouldn't be in here.
Are we a member of the National League of Cities
We are not.
or not? So, I mean, if we were a member, then it would be a service to the National League of Cities that could reach out to us as part of the membership. But, I mean, we're not even a part of the NLC.
No, we're not part of the NSC, but I think we're still eligible. Obviously, we're still eligible.
Yeah, you don't have to be a member to, have access to the service at all.
I was at the Public Works when you were there and brought it to our attention, and I commented that I had a problem a couple winters ago, and it cost me $7,000 because I had to go down the hill and put in the PVC, and I'm probably fine now, but it appealed to me because it made sense to me, and I could see where other people for a monthly fee could sign on and be all right.
Yeah, I mean, most people just aren't thinking about this type of issue until they have an issue. So, I understand that there's companies out there, the other warranty companies that do this, and we're certainly one of them. And, our situation is unique because we partner with cities. But a lot of people just aren't waking up and going, man, I wonder what happens if my water or sewer line has an issue. They only don't think about that till they have a problem. They may call the city saying, hey, what can you do? Or what do I do? And at that time, you're probably saying, well, you have to find your own plumber and do all that. So what we're doing is really simple. Is the status quo is that the homeowner has to go out, find their plumber, possibly solicit bids because depending on the scope of the work, manage their entire repair journey. We're just saying we have a better way to do that, and we'll do that all for you. And you can have a subscription type model where you pay a nominal fee per month, and if you have an issue, you call us. We dispatch a local plumber. You get a call within an hour of calling us regarding your claim. Contractor calls you within an hour. You set the appointment up. They come out. They make the repair. They send us the bill at the end of the day. That's essentially it. It's a very simple service. It's effective. And this is why cities are evaluating the need for the service based on aging infrastructure, improvement in education, and just overall cost savings to homeowners.
Everything you said there I like, except the part that the city is connected with you. I don't think the city should be connected. To offer people this service, I think it's wonderful. But I don't know why the city would endorse it or be a part of it. I don't understand the legal aspects of it, and I haven't heard anything about that. But
well, I mean, there's obviously precedent here in Minnesota. We have, close to 20 partners. So in terms of the marketing document, I mean, that's been vetted by hundreds and hundreds of city attorneys from all over the country. So, we'll work with you to develop the terms that you need to have in there, certainly. But it sounds to me like you see the value in the program, but you just don't want to, to me, if the city sees value in it, why wouldn't you want to introduce or let your residents know about it? Otherwise, they're not going to know about it.
Well, you got the guy right on the end down there. He'll run your ads in the paper, and you
All
got
right.
internet people here. You can put it on our channel 12. I don't care.
Okay.
Only if-
All right, well, we got,
Right.
we do have a motion. Do we have a second?
You do have a second
By-
from me.
I got a second by Cedar. All right, now is there any other discussion?
Just to clarify this, what I see this today is you are requesting our permission to continue exploring whether this opportunity can be offered to our residents. That's it. And the reason I seconded it is because I don't see a good reason to stand in the way of offering this opportunity to our residents. I think it's of value, and I don't want to be an obstacle to something of value that they can choose whether or not to avail themselves of in their free market and free will.
Why are we standing in the way, though, Cedar? Explain that to me. They can go out and advertise, do whatever they want. Why are we standing in the way? I mean, our other local insurance companies could say, we want to come down and now we want to be endorsed. Where does this go?
you are characterizing this as an endorsement. I don't see it as an endorsement. I think that's a very specific sort of legal relationship that's not being requested today and that's not contemplated by this agreement.
But the insurance companies don't cover the service he's offering.
Oh, there's others out there. I'll guarantee you if you go on the internet.
All right, we'll have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion at this time, the chair will take a motion. For all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
Passes 4-2.
So what, I just wanted to say, in terms of the agreement, in terms of trying to pursue, if you still want to do the, obviously do the program, is have you guys start reviewing the letter first, and then get to a point where you're comfortable with that, and then execute the agreement, if that makes sense to you. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us on to item 9D, or 9C, which is the approval of the memorandum of understanding with the 49ers. Leroy, you brought that down?
Yeah, I was just kind of curious of what has changed or what happened that we got to this understanding thing. What's different that we haven't been doing for years?
Well, what's in front of you is, as you recall, in September, council approved the new classification and compensation study
Right.
or plan. And then subsequent to that, or at about the same time, you approved the moving to the steps for non-union employees. So the excluded from that are, of course, the LELS, the police bargaining unit, and the 49ers, or the IUOE, the Public Works bargaining unit. So they weren't included in that motion because they're, by contract, they're exclusive. So what this does is bring the 49ers, or the Public Works employees, to that wage as of retroactive to October 1st. It's just defining, and this goes through the end of the year. So this is from 10/1 of 17, just like the non-union employees, to 12/31 of 17. But we have to have it in writing with this group and with LELS. LELS will come forward at the next meeting.
Okay. I make a motion to move ahead with it.
Second.
Motion by Leroy, second by Mike, to approve the memorandum of understanding with the International Union of Operating Engineers regarding wages from 10/1/17 to 12/31/17. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to item 9D, which is the add a full-time paramedic.
Yeah, I brought that down. I'm so glad Tim's here. And there's no doubt in my mind that this is the right thing to do and what you need to do. The only thing that I would like to say is that I think it'd be good sometime if we had a workshop with you, the council, on the future of the ambulance and where it's going. Because it seems like your challenges up there are just getting more and more and higher all the time. And it leads to more employees, it leads to more ambulance. And where do we want to go with this stuff? Every time we turn around, there's something with another ambulance or something. And I guess I'm concerned if the growth is going to continue, then it also it's a growth towards more buildings, more garages, more everything else. And I would just like to sometime in the middle of the winter have a meeting with the ambulance department and see where all this is going. The one thing you brought up was like the Mayo Clinic. I guess the one concern I have is I've always considered it to be our local ambulance, and it's not a bad thing, but we've also pretty much become the Mayo Clinic ambulance too. And is that the direction we should still keep going? How should all this stuff go? And where's the growing pains with this thing? That's the concerns I have.
I don't know what you want me to address immediately. Yes, we're growing. I think that's a great thing. I would challenge the council that we are not the Mayo ambulance service. We do provide a service to the Mayo Health system. I think we provide a really good service to them. And we are fortunate that our ambulance service, my leadership, Sulos, we're backed by an excellent physician by Dr. Mike Wilcox, that he allows us to do many great things for our citizens and the people that need medical care within our community that Gold Cross can't do unless they have a nurse on board or they grab other resources from the hospital. Where we're fortunate that we train our medics, that we provide them the opportunities, the equipment to provide those services. So when you have a medical emergency at 3 a.m. and you need to go to St. Mary's, that our ambulance can handle it. And I think that's important for us to know, because Mayo Clinic, Gold Cross, that's who Mayo Clinic owns, there's service, a lot of them that can't do that. They don't have the enhanced ventilators like we do that provide BiPAP. They literally have to find a respiratory therapist at St. Mary's if they're available, pull them off the floor, get their equipment, load it up in their ambulance, and then drive to Cannon Falls. And we're fortunate that our ambulance service, our medical director is confident in our ability to provide those services. So I really, I can see where you're saying that it almost feels like we're their service, but we're not. We're independent. We're doing great things. I feel like we, as a city in our service, we're challenging the status quo for a good reason, and we're providing an excellent service to our citizens, and that's thanks to you guys for letting us to do that and allowing us to use that capital that we make to reinvest it into our service, and we just continue to grow, and I think we have a great product, and I have no problem if you guys want to sit down and look at my thoughts and our agenda, where we want to go. I don't think we're going to outgrow our building anytime soon. But yeah, I mean, obviously more miles we put on is obviously we're going to probably need to pay more maintenance and maybe look at different replacement models. But I think we're buying good equipment. We have a great person within the community that services our equipment to help keep it maintained, and I feel confident in that. So.
Robbie, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we do a yearly sort of, we visit with each of we have a presentation from our various departments, and they kind of update us on their agenda and the challenges they're facing and what they see?
I think we did that, if it wasn't last year, it was the year before. I know that we did that, and we might look at it again. I mean, when they come into the council and give us a presentation, to do that again. I mean, I know our ambulance service is second to none in this area. I mean, they've been self-supportive ever since I've been living here. And that's since '93. So, I mean, I know they've always done a good job. And with the changes in the medical field, the requirements change. And without them, without being up to date like they are, we'd be losing a lot of income. I mean, it's good to have those folks on board. It's good to have the training that they've got and that relationship that they have with Mayo and with their doctor to be able to provide the service. I mean, we have a lot of elderly citizens here. We have a lot of elderly people that come visit Cannon Falls. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're elderly or young. I mean, to be able to take care of an elderly person or an infant, the training that they've got might mean the difference between life or death. So, I mean, the better trained they are and the better equipment they've got, I think they do a dang good job, and I applaud them for it.
Leroy, with your concern about Mayo Clinic, I can tell you that there's just about every EMT down there has at one time or another been concerned that Mayo Clinic is going to come in and bring Gold Cross in. And I think
I've heard that too.
As this city council continues to support the ambulance the way we have been, we really make it so there's no incentive for Gold Cross to come in. Like Tim alluded to, these guys are doing things that Gold Cross can't do. So by adding another paramedic, giving us that other coverage, like Tim said, letting them keep some of their capital for reinvestment, that's going to keep Gold Cross and that's going to keep Mayo Clinic at bay. just, the support that we give them as a city is gonna ensure that Mayo Clinic or AMR or any number of private ambulance services are gonna come in because we do have such a great product.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that because I used to be on the service.
I mean, when Tim started up this organization where the other ones are coming in from the cities or something, you're doing the sharing thing, I see all that as a great thing. The stuff you're doing down there is great. And what I like about you is I don't hear nothing down there, so I know things are going good. So, this is not questioning about your ability or how you run things. This is just, if you could fill us in sometime where you see the future and how much is this gonna keep growing. And the biggest part that Leroy always gets afraid of is we got young Tim here, Fireball, taking care of things for us, and all of a sudden Tim, because of his quality, gets a big offer for somebody else, and now the new person comes in and we got problems. So just keep us informed. Just know that we appreciate the heck out of you. But yeah, I don't want to get it so big and so wild that it becomes a heck of a management thing. Thank you. And I make a motion to move ahead with that.
Second. A motion by Leroy, a second by Ken, to approve the hiring of another full-time paramedic position for the ambulance department, and authorize the EMS chief to advertise and interview the prospective candidates. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Carries.
Tim.
Thanks, Tim. That moves us on to item 9E, which is the Sandstone Ridge redevelopment plan.
Yeah, I brought that down just quick, is that when we voted on Sandstone Ridge with Southeastern Minnesota Housing last time, or whatever it's called, I voted on that because they were going to do a study and look into it and see what they could come up with. I didn't vote on that because we were locked into something. The one thing that's changed now is that the county, I just totally get confused on this whole thing out there because for some reason we got this land that's in the foreclosure, but in the middle of it, we own the sewer and water mains. And to me, it's just weird. So to me, the answer was, how do we get this resolved? But in the meantime, the county gets back and they start selling off lots, and then they're hooking up to the sewer and water and says everything is good, and then I hear that it isn't good, and then we have to have Samantha do something so somebody can build, and then they tell me that it has to be a 10-acre plot, and I keep saying, well, Southeastern Minnesota isn't going to sell 10-acre plots, so what has changed? So all I'm saying is that I think when we work with the group down there on the future for that, I truly want to keep in mind affordable housing. And when I talk about affordable housing, I'm talking about manufactured homes or mobile homes. I don't care. But I want to talk about affordable housing. And the other thing is, I think we have to get the county's opinion if they're going to keep selling off these lots and these people are going to keep coming to us. Where does that leave Southeastern Minnesota in this whole thing? So to me, it got complicated. It should have been simple, but I make a motion to have the person come and speak with us.
Well, I think in September, we made a motion to let them give us a development plan or something.
Right.
And a lot of things have happened now. He's selling lots, so we'll have to wait till he makes his presentation and kind of go over it in December.
But some of Knowlton's thing there is that he said we didn't know if we wanted to approve it because we'd approved that with them. And then that had to all be readdressed. Well, I didn't realize we were locking into something. And that's all I was concerned about.
Has this gone to the planning commission? I mean,
Not yet. This, maybe I can kind of summarize where we've been and where they want us to go. Council did approve moving forward, approve the Southeast Minnesota Multi-County HRA moving forward with their development plan. We did it by motion. Mr. Wheeler, the executive director, came back to me and said that he found out from his legal staff, because of the financing they need to do for the housing, I don't know all the details of that, but in essence, they needed us to have a public hearing instead. Well, in the meantime, subsequent to that meeting, we realized that a couple of those parcels that were included in their West End development plan, if you recall, they had an East End development plan and then a separate West End development plan, which they really didn't have a time frame for, but it was out at least five years on the West End. Well, since that time, then there's been at least 3 lots, individual parcels sold to private parties and by the county. They're the custodian of the state forfeited properties. And so it seemed that, and in my discussion with one of the property owners that purchased a couple of those lots, there's a fair amount of excitement amongst individuals, private individuals, to continue to develop housing there, you know, and understanding that there's the soils issue too. So with that in mind, I discussed this with Mr. Wheeler, and the parties also stated that they were a little bit hesitant in having the Southeast Development, or Southeast Minnesota Multi-County Development Plan come down into that Bluff Drive, or the Bluff Drive in particular area. So what you will see on the at the public hearing is you'll see a revised plan from the HRA, and they will explain it. They'll have an option on the west end, but they're primarily focusing now, because of that activity on that end, let it be private, let the private people develop it, and then they'll develop the east end of it with the workforce housing type idea in mind. But that's kind of an overall
When would
where we're at and where
when
we've
would the
been.
rezoning come into it, or?
That would, this is just, it would come in later. Right now, in regards to your 1 lot per 10 acres, or one building per 10 acres, that's under the current zoning, and our assistant planning and zoning person, Samantha, is working on right now and going to the planning commission with the rezone of that all the way up to Sandstone Road. So that'd be rezone to single family all the way up there. So that would allow the current private folks to do it, like Mr. Knowlton, like you mentioned his name, to continue to develop single family, not on 10-acre lots, but on regular, normal size parcels, and all the way up to Sandstone. And that would allow, if they stop at a certain point, that would allow the HRA also they wouldn't have to rezone, because it would likely be just a single-family residential.
Do we have to, is this just automatically annexed into the city? Or when this all gets cleared up because of the foreclosure, do we have to re-annex all
No,
this again?
it's all in corporate limits.
It's already in city limits.
There's no annexation process involved.
But we never accepted any of this stuff. That's what I never could figure out. When a developer, when it didn't qualify and the University of Minnesota came down and said we couldn't build, we just didn't accept it. But we actually own the rights to the roads, but I guess, to me, I never could figure all this out.
Yeah, that's for the redevelopment plan, or the Semtra to figure out, and they're gonna have to spend a lot of money on replatting that and so forth, and getting the property ownership all cleared and everything. So they got a lot of work ahead of them and a lot of expense.
And the biggest thing is I like taking care of family around here. I know 2 of them up there that built were somebody that wanted to live alongside their family, and they were gonna help take care of them. And I don't like the idea when somebody's in that situation that they come and now we don't qualify, or it takes 10 acres or something. So that's my only point, is that we need to move ahead and get on top of this. And we wanna work with Southeastern Minnesota Housing Initiative. But if the county sells the lot and somebody wants to build, to me, we should sell a lot, help our tax base, and get somebody moved in there that wants to be there,
Yeah, and it's not up to us, so, but that has been happening, so.
right? Thank you. I make a motion to move ahead with it.
I got a motion by Leroy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ken to set a public hearing for approximately 6:30 on December 5th to accept input for the Sandstone Ridge redevelopment plan. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to item 9F, which is Resolution 2306, which is to support the state bond funding for the Cannon Valley Trail.
Thanks, Robbie. I pulled this down just to distinguish it from the actual funding requests that we'll be discussing with connection to our budget for next year. This resolution that we would adopt, that we could adopt tonight, is sort of the written statement of intent to support, but it has no dollar value attached to it. These are letters, they're sort of like letters of support that the trail has requested from all of the affected municipalities and also chambers of commerce in the different locations that they're going to submit in their package, and that they have been told can be persuasive as state and other agencies are evaluating grant funding. So there's no dollars and cents attached to this resolution, but there may be attached as we look at our budget for next year. So just wanted to distinguish it in that sense. With that said, I don't know if anyone has any questions. I'll move to go forward with it.
A motion by Cedar, is there a second?
Second.
A second by Mike to approve Resolution 2306 in support of bond funding for the Cannon Valley Trail. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Moves us on to reports.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. A couple of things. The first English erosion bank repair project is probably going to get started tomorrow. The contractor had planned to start late last week, but had something else come up, so I believe he's scheduled to be there tomorrow. He has some equipment there already, or some materials. That'll take him just a couple of days. He still has a week or two before the completion date anyway, so he's within the limits of the contract still. And then an update on the library. The ongoing solution to the leak and the wet carpet continues. We, SCH, hired Inspec to do a forensic study of it to give them get a third-party opinion in here to see what it is. That was done last Thursday. We're expecting their report here in a week or two. Once we get that back with some potential sources, remedies, we'll meet with staff and pursue getting that fixed. Again, this is still related to the construction, in our opinion. Nothing leads us to be a design issue, but yet we're still here trying to help the city resolve that, along with some carpet and paint issues that are ongoing. So just an update that was done, and we expect their report in a week or two with some findings and hopefully some recommendations on addressing it.
So when will you email a report out, or are you gonna bring it up?
I will, once I get it, I'll get it to Ron and Nicole, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Tom?
I told you earlier that XL was gonna change out the Cobra lights around town in October. That's been pushed out till December. They're running a little behind on that, but they will replace all the Cobra lights with LED lighting. And that's not the downtown lighting, that's the lights. Second item I'll elaborate on. The downtown trees where we had filled in with brick, we've had trips and falls because the bricks keep heaving. We can't put a new tree in the old spot because the roots are there and we can't pull that out by no means. So what we decided to do was cement those in so there are no trip hazards. We talked to the league a while back. We've had a sidewalk policy put in place. And that's what we're in the process doing. A little late in the season, but we want to get those filled so that we don't have to constantly go down there and adjust bricks because they're heaving or in somebody's snow blower, things like that. Just get those patched and move on.
And you aren't gonna go back with trees in them spots at all?
We can't go back with trees in those spots, but we have put approximately 7 to 9 new trees. And anytime a tree comes out, we have had put trees back in. We have plans of putting at least 3 or 4 more back in. So every tree that's been taken down, I think there's been one put back in its place through the years. So we haven't eliminated any trees.
Well, just wanted to let you guys know what's going on at the library. I am currently looking for a new library assistant because Heidi has officially retired as of the end of last month. So I'm taking applications through the 25th. And we have a library program going on next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Chad Lewis is coming to talk about Minnesota's Road Guide to Mysterious Creatures. So where you can find mythical creatures in Minnesota, which you're not going to find, but it's just good fun. He's a really great speaker. I've had him before at my old library, and he's been here before too, I've been told. And then next Saturday at, I believe it's 11:30, Angie is going to teach people how to make gift tags. So if you want to make some homemade gift tags for your Christmas presents, it's a free program, and just come, bring your family. It's for all ages, and you can make some really pretty gift tags. And just call so that we know how many people to prepare for, so we have the right number of supplies available. We'll be closed this Friday and Saturday for Veterans Day. And that's about all I've got right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we've completed October, so those events are all behind us. However, coming up will be Deck the Falls, and I'll have more details on that on the 21st, but just an opportunity for our local residents to come down and see a nighttime parade, lighting of the tree, and other activities in our Main Street area.
Thanks. Thank you. Ron?
Regarding HBC and the change of ownership, I mentioned last time that Schurz Communication has purchased HBC. Our current, or our cable attorney is reviewing their packet of information on their change of name, and along with, because he represents Lake City, and I think there's at least 10 other cities that he represents. So he's looking at the same information, and so he'll be coming back to us with his recommendation on the new setup. I've been assured by HBC that their status quo, they were not interested in selling out to anybody such as Mediacom, Charter, etc., the big conglomerates. As far as they told me, keeping the same employees, folks won't notice a difference in operations. It'll be the same, and I see that they did set up their office, or they're setting up their office downtown, so that was a good thing too. That's all I have.
You know, to make a comment on that, I didn't realize that there's going to be a manager in town here for that, and that person moved to town and bought a home here now. So that's with Hiawatha Broadband that to me was exciting, it was contributing to our town. So hopefully this being bought out, this person doesn't lose his job now, and so that's the good things that I've seen coming out of it. But when it gets into corporate America, it scares the hell out of me when they start firing people and changing things. So, thank you.
No. Mike?
Just one comment on the manager for HBC. He's got that office downtown, and we had the Halloween trick-or-treat thing the other day, and we had somebody down there, and he had 3 little bags of candy. And he was ready for the kids to show up, and we told him, maybe you need to go buy just a little bit more. I have nothing.
Yeah, I actually have good news about the swans. So I routinely walk down and check out the swans and the pretty new ducks, even though there's only 2 now, not 3. And one of the swans was staying really far away from all of the rest of the birds. And that's what birds do when they're sick, so that they protect their little colony. So I had just sent Tom, I think was it even a text? I think it was a text, like, hey, next time you're down in Minneska, see if the swans are hanging out together, because they're either having a troubled relationship or one of them is sick. Maybe they need some marriage counseling.
To elaborate on that, when Cedar sent me the text, I want to make sure it didn't drop off my radar. I sent it on to David Pagel and said, let's keep an eye on that swan.
Sure, because they just are in and out of the park, that's
so
all. But it turns out
the-
it's
the
good and
message
the
did come through
swans
me
are hanging out together and all is well with our swans. And that is all.
The other day, though, when I walked by there.
Were they hanging out separate again?
Yeah.
See,
You did something.
that makes me nervous.
I think it's a hormonal thing. I think they should be in a breeding season, but they won't be breeding until they're white, till their plumage is full white. So it should be another year before they are breeding, so.
Just not in the mood to hang out together, okay.
No, nothing.
Leroy?
Nope.
Ken?
No.
And I have nothing, so with that, the chair will take a motion to adjourn the city council meeting.
Can I mention, I didn't know if Morris was bringing it up or not, but we got Garland going up. Is it this week or next week? When is that going to happen? I know when it is, but I can't remember.
The garland is going to be wrapped on the 13th and it'll be installed on the 15th at 1 o'clock.
I think if anybody wants to help, if I'm not mistaken, on the 13th, they're looking for volunteers to come down and help unravel all that, and just to let people know that there'll be your trucks and stuff downtown on the 15th then.
Good.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Ken. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is adjourned. And we'll take about